it's the maintenance building. Ruby Arnold, who is the mother of Anthony Arnold, who was on the board when I got there. Congressman Cleaver told me that when he was mayor, she sat outside his office every day for 30 days. I don't know, like, sir, that sounds like a preacher story. He said, and then one day she just blocked the door and said, "You've got to get us that building for the Black Archives before you leave office, or we're not going to have it." And he knew she was right, so he secured the building. Cost $5 million to renovate it. So this is the Ewing, Marion Kaufman exhibition hall, because the Kaufmans gave $1 million. Kemper Foundation gave $1 million. City put in $2.5 million. The private donors put in the rest. So if you give me $1 million, I'll make an exhibit hall. This exhibit is With My Eyes No Longer Blind. It's taken from the Langston newspaper with the same name. Can you? Bruce R. Watkins, first black man to run for mayor of Kansas City. And I'm old enough to remember when he ran, and he said if I'd been white, I could have gone to bed at 6 o'clock. And he was way ahead.
What year was that?
I don't know.
I remember that.
1979.
1979.
So, yeah.
What year was this depiction?
Okay, that's supposed to look like a collage of 18th and Vine. It's not.
Yeah.
This is the colored firehouse.
Right,
So it's
sitting right
desegregation.
They're sitting right over here, right?
Yeah, it's a 2022 Vine. It's an art gallery now.
Yeah.
Jeff Jordan has it. It's a beautiful art gallery. And this is where the archives was. This is not 18th Street. It's a collage of different places throughout the city.
Throughout the city. Because that's down there in the bottoms.
Downtown, yeah. And so all of this is the building of Black Kansas City. There's Swartz. That's a picture that we found upstairs of him, and it's just so appropriate, him in the archives, pulling out documents and he stored them
You get his name for his man.
And music, of course, and athletics is always a big part of Kansas City history, Kansas City's identification. So we have lots of that information. 2 years ago, we had some military folks come in and say, "Have you heard of PFC Wiley James?" And we go like, "No." And he was killed in the war.
Who was that again?
It's here. Willie James. When I saw his name, it had one L, so he got to be Wiley to me.
Wiley James.
Yeah. But his nieces, came into my office, and they had gotten his Medal of Honor from the president, and they wanted it to be here at the archives. And I told them it was just too valuable for us to just put it out. So they got together. There were representatives from 4 military groups, and they raised the money for this case and the lights, and so it's secure in there. We don't know what he looked like. There are no pictures of him. So these are artist renditions from people's memories. And he had just got married, didn't have time to take a honeymoon, so he had no children. So that's how the nieces ended up with his Medal of Honor. So we expanded it to include other branches, blacks.
So this would be in World War II, right?
World War II. And he got killed. They were all black units that were commanded by white folks, and his commander got shot. They were told that the place was secure and there was no danger. They goofed him and he got shot and killed.
So he was a young man, 25 years old.
Young man. Just started his life.
Huh?
So then we had folks from all of the branches here, Wade Minor Unit, etc., come here. So this is the building of Black Kansas City. Leona Pouncey Thurman was the first white female to practice law in Kansas City. Sports, of course, were significant to the building of Kansas City, as well as all of the Theater Owners Booking Association. So that's why we got so many famous musicians here, because Toba would book them to Kansas City. And for many of them, this would be their last stop before the winter, so they'd be stuck here for the winter. And so the musicians said Toba stood for tough on black asses.
Wow. Stood for what now?
Tough on black asses.
Tough on black asses.
Yeah,
Wow.
because they would be stuck here. But that's why Kansas City has such a big, rich musical history, because they would get here and couldn't go any further. So from for the winter at least.
All right.
So going to Kansas City, 12th Street Drive. Okay, so from 12th to 18th and further was the music camp. I was going to tell you, this is one of my favorite pictures. It took me a while to see this guy up in the window. He's the dispatcher. This is 18th Street. And the taxis would line up, and he would holler out the window and tell them where to go pick up the fares. That's your early dispatchers. And that, this restaurant, that's now where the Blue Room is.
That's where?
Where the Blue Room
okay.
is. So, and the first hotel, restaurant to have white tablecloth service for black people was at the Street Hotel, which was right.
What was so significant about the white tablecloth?
Because we hadn't been served first class before.
So the white tablecloth was like
First class.
imagery,
It's a
representation. I would want to say.
yeah.
It's like first class.
Right.
Wow. White tablecloth.
You would have it in white restaurants. And if you went to other restaurants, they would not serve it with the table.
Just on a plain table.
So they literally ripped the tablecloth off.
If they let you in. I had a woman, I was giving a lecture over in Western Kansas, and she worked at a restaurant where it was on the road where they used to take the prisoners of war across Kansas to take them to the POW camps. And she worked at a restaurant. She was a teenager, and she said that it would break her heart because these prisoners of war, our enemies, would get to sit in the restaurant, and the black soldiers who were escorting them had to sit in the back. And she said she knew she couldn't do anything about that, but she could make sure that they got the best service possible. So she would do that. But our enemy got treated better than our service people. But young man, father, and he was accused of like running a red light. And the cops followed him home, and there were two of them, and he was backing into his garage, and one of the cops got out, went to his truck, and started firing at him. And his partner said, "Don't do it," and he shot and killed him anyway. So this is one of the few cases where a white cop has actually been convicted of killing a black person. His parents, I have a good friend of mine is in the prosecutor's office, and parents wanted to know, would we keep the documents here? DeValcanaire applied to get his conviction overturned, and there was a lot of talk that the governor was going to do that. So when they asked, we hurried on and did this ceremony and inducted this in here so Cameron could have his moment, because I was afraid, and a lot of other people were, that our governor was going to overturn the conviction. He hasn't yet. But, you know, he was innocent. So this is strategically placed. I'm going to put his picture on here. Because we have also partnered with the Equal Justice Initiative, the Have Mercy, the Just Mercy people, and Montgomery, Alabama, the Brian Stevenson people. We have the only exhibit outside of Montgomery, Alabama, that's dedicated to victims of racial murder. This was a racial murder. And here, these are people who were lynched house. And in the wintertime, people would put newspaper on the inside of their walls to keep the air out.
Insulation.
So, and we know what Missouri winters are like. But Lucy even had glass windows. And she had burlap. She had burlap too on her windows. But I think she was, because look at her fancy tablecloth. This is from her house. And, you know, this is the wringer for the washer. And these are actually her quilt tops. So we put this on the inside to show that she did have some private space. And all of her pictures are labeled, which I'm glad, because this is her daughter. And I would have thought that because Trenton, Missouri was a place of enslavement,
Yes.
then maybe that was her owner, but they actually defied the law and got married.
So that was her owner at one time, but
No,
that was
he-
her husband?
There's no evidence that he ever owned her.
Oh, it was just her.
But he was her husband.
So ma'am, all this stuff belongs to her as well?
All of this.
All this?
And all the plates and bowls, everything belonged to Lucy.
And this was her
This was her home.
home while she's married to him.
Lucy wasn't married to him, her daughter.
Her daughter. Okay. Oh, that's her daughter.
That's her daughter. Yeah, this is Lucy.
I got you.
Okay. Just think they would boil us in pots like this.
And rub your clothes on there to get them clean, then put them in the freezer. Hang them up on the line. I had a little boy one time say, accused him of hitting an old white woman in the head with a rock. I'm like, I didn't know, I wasn't even there. After we put this up, it was kind of chilling for me. My father's family name is Warner, and my mother's family name is Waters. So one of these days I'm going to have to look and see if I'm related to these people. I went down to the ceremony in Springfield, and these Horace Duncan and Fred Coker were lynched on April 14th. There were 7,000 people
In attendance
in the square, which is like 1 block square,
to watch the.
to watch it. And it got so good to them, the next day they went and got William Allen out of jail and lynched him.
What you call
On
it?
the
Grotesque
west,
Carnival.
on Grotesque.
Grotesque Carnival.
Hey, remember that name. That's the name of the show.
Protest carnival.
Grotesque. Meaning gross. Gruesome.
Grotesque
Gruesome carnival.
Carnival.
Yeah, because they would play games and men, women.
You know what I mean?
Psychological war.
That's psychological warfare, bro. This is your family right here. This is a whole ceremony of a whole town gathered together to lynch a brother who I can guarantee you was innocent.
Oh yeah, all these people, we know their bios, we know they were innocent. Levi Harrington was lynched off the West Bluff of Kansas City. So we had a ceremony a couple of years ago where we placed the marker. EJI makes those markers, and the day that
Make sure y'all get a picture of that.
yeah, Levi Harrington, the day that George Floyd was murdered, police had videos from white guys in the truck cutting that off a steel beam and throwing it over the hill. So the city called me and said, you know, we retrieved it and we got it in storage. What do you think we should do with it? So I told them to bring it here. So that's the original one. We made another one, and we had another ceremony. And we're trying to protect it better. But those kinds of people won't stop our work.
So this was here in Kansas City.
Right, yep, right off the West Bluff.
Right.
All of these people were in Missouri somewhere.
Right. So in Kansas City, they were taking down the signs when George Floyd was killed. That's
They
like
cut this one down.
1619 project.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Where they trying.
We have a reenactment of Erasmus Brown. Let's see, here's Erasmus. And he was going to the drugstore to get some medicine for his son. He was sick. And men, women, and children. This was done. We put out a request for art because something needed to happen in here. And lots of artists came in. And this one came in. I'm going like, Charlie, you're 20 years old. Why do you have all of these paintings of lynchings? So we talked about the intergenerational effect that men, women, and children were lynched. And there's a parallel atrocity going on here because this is horrific. There is no other way to think about it. You know, you murder somebody, you hang them, you burn them, you cut their bodies, and you laugh while you're doing that. But also there's a parallel. You're a 4-year-old white kid, and you're at this thing, and your father puts you on his shoulder so that you can see that better.
Like a baseball game.
And everybody's having fun.
Yeah.
They're playing games, they're laughing, they're having fun. They got picnic, they got food. So you don't grow up to know how horrific this is.
These are 80-year-old men and women walking around right now.
These are the people who showed up January 6th and stormed the Capitol.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, that's a heavy statement that you made.
Y'all don't know if you know what you just said.
Yeah. Those are the people. Those are all the people. This is why the Lord made the statement. Get that in Malachi 1:4. No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because a lot of people, they try to distinguish individuals, because you have certain individuals that help, but these are a lot of 7,000 people come out and nobody say nothing if this is wrong.
There were over 7,000 people on the West Bluff, right down the street, Kansas City, who did that. I had a little kid in middle school. He jumped from there to there. I'm like, honey, I know it's intense. Are you okay? And he said, yeah, I just saw the Ku Klux Klan. I said, but guess what, sweetie? Not everybody who shared that mentality wore hoods and robes.
Some of them was just out there.
Some of them had on their suits.
When you stated that the newspaper article came out, that goes to what you said. Nobody, when that came out, it was days before. Nobody was like, no, this is wrong. So that expands to 7,000. It was more than just 7,000
They
that
just
were
got the number
complicit.
on it.
Yeah, that's who showed up.
Read that.
Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4. Straight to the point.
Yep.
Whereas Edom saith,
Edom is the biblical name for these men down here, the so-called white men. It says Edom, that's biblically what his name is. Go ahead.
Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places.
This is when they came out of Georgia, Russia. This is the history. And they came and colonized America. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts,
Go ahead.
they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of
They
wickedness,
said they're going to call them the border of wickedness. And what else?
and the people,
Get the people. And the people. Go ahead.
the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever.
That's why. And the people, bro. All of them got demonic spirits,
Oh yeah, that's how they looked at us.
bro.
That's what they saw us as the demon.
And that's crazy, bro. You said they enjoyed April that much.
Forrest
They got
Duncan.
another deal.
The next day.
Did you get
Forrest
everything she
Duncan
said?
and Fred Coker.
Did you get everything with her saying that about that grotesque carnival? Like,
Yes.
did you get her saying
I
it?
got it.
Like, on recording her?
Hold on. I think
That's
because
crazy. That's crazy, bro.
That's a heck of a name, isn't it?
What is a nation? Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community.